You've reached Conversation with Mr. A. This is your host, Anthony Apostilla. Thank you for listening. Let's get right to the episode. Welcome to Conversations with Mr. A. This is your host, Anthony Apostilla. So for this edition, I have my friend Chelsea Pyper, she has been a substitute teacher for 10 years, more than 10 years. We went to school together. I've known her for a very, very long time. Chelsea, thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So to get started, what inspired you to become a teacher, and how did you find your way into subbing?
Well, it's funny. When people ask me that, I usually tell them we need a couple of hours and maybe a couple of beers or coffee. That works too. But I actually transitioned from being a translator to a teacher back in 2005. And I went to South Korea, met a friend from middle school, and decided, hey, it's time for a change. So that's kind of where I began my educational journey. It was in South Korea a long time ago. And then when I came back from South Korea in 2014, that's when I said, okay, it's time to buckle down and get my certification. Because I did everything backwards, right? From high school, I did a lot of traveling. And then I wound up in South Korea for almost 10 years with a couple of breaks in between. But then when I came back, I said, it's time to get my nose to the grindstone and get my certification. So, yeah.
How was the experience like in South Korea?
In South Korea, it was a wonderful place to start a family and raise my first two kids. I loved it. I have lots of great experiences from there, and I still have contacts with friends that we met. We had a huge kind of like an expat community, and I think that's one of the most important things when I talk to people and former students also about traveling abroad is make sure you have that support group, because I think that is what made it much more enjoyable living there and working there and trying to fit in, as we say. So, yeah.
You've taught a lot of things,
Yeah.
French, PE, social studies. How do you prepare for such different subjects?
It's interesting. It's, chameleon is probably that one term that I would call myself a chameleon. I feel like there's nothing that I can't teach. And because I've been in so many different classrooms with different grade levels and with kids with different, backgrounds, I feel like for me, the most important thing is to build a connection and a relationship with the students. And especially as being a sub, sometimes you don't have the opportunity to spend more than one day with that kid or that classroom. So I try to take it one step at a time and enjoy myself. And kind of my mantra has always been, if I'm enjoying myself, then the kids are. And we usually find we have a good day by the end of the day. There's lots of good memories to have. So,
any personal favorite subjects?
French, absolutely. That would be my first, I think, because I love the French language. And when I came back from South Korea, actually, I went into a program with CityU to learn how to teach Korean to Korean heritage students. So that was kind of like my first kind of awakening into the difficulties of like teaching languages, and it's not just what I had learned on the fly, but really like the methodology of teaching language and how to do it in an immersive way or in different ways that are more effective for the second language student. Yeah.
What's something people don't realize about being a substitute teacher?
Something that people don't realize? I feel like a lot of substitute teachers, if given the opportunity, they would like to have the same classroom. I think in my circumstance with my kids and raising them, having the opportunity to be flexible and take jobs if I want or not to take jobs, to kind of be more picky and choosy for the jobs was an asset. But, I think substitute teachers, there's a lot that I think regular teachers don't realize that we have to deal with. We don't get to choose oftentimes the classroom or the kids or the subject. We just take the job. Sometimes we just have to pay the bills. But I think also that there's a lot of skill sets that substitute teachers have that we build over time that is it's different than what I would consider the standard teacher would have. So, yeah.
I would imagine sometimes it's almost like very last minute. You get a call, maybe I would imagine 5 or 6, and it's like, oh, okay, gotta get ready, just like that. Is that true?
That's true, yeah. Well, because I've been substituting for so long, I'm booked most of the time, and I usually do long-term positions. But even for those ones on the fly, I think the most important thing is that, you got to remain flexible and you have to have a positive attitude, because otherwise you're not going to make it as a sub. And I think it's a great place to start for people who are considering becoming teachers. But I think for the long term, especially being seasoned, I'm definitely ready to move on and to have my own classroom for sure.
Yeah. Now, I know you mentioned French as your favorite subject.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any specific favorite age group that you enjoy teaching more?
I think I can say on one side that, I've taught mostly high school French, and because I'm very versed and I'm familiar with that, and I've had to build curriculums on the fly, and especially in long-term positions, I've had to redesign curriculums just to make it work for the length of time that I was there. But I have to say that when I went back to school to get my math credential, fifth grade is my favorite. I have a lot of memories from Clear Creek because I was a student teacher there, and also my mentor teacher and the students that I taught. Not too long ago, in fact, I saw some of the students that were in my fifth grade class that I was student teaching, who are in high school and who remember me. And so I think for me that it just made it so worthwhile, because it was like the first real time I got to know a classroom for a length of time. I was able to build relationships with students. My mentor teacher was awesome. I learned so much. It's kind of like when you're at the very beginning of your career. There's a lot of things that you learn. Of course, things that I would do differently, but it's amazing when you run into those students who remember you, and you have long since forgotten them, but there's some things you remember, and it makes it all that worthwhile, for sure.
Can you share a memorable or funny story from one of your substitute assignments?
Oh my goodness. I feel like I've got a lot. So it's hard to kind of pare down with just one particular experience. But I think if I had to choose one, it would be, let me think. I'm going to go with kind of more recently, but it was in the past year. I was at Mountain View Middle and I was teaching social studies. And prior to that, I taught like high school history. And I was there for in that first experience a couple of years ago. I was teaching high school, and that was modern history, but this one was ancient history, and I got to teach sixth graders, and that's kind of that sticky stage where the kids are like, their bodies are changing. I say kids that are going through puberty are becoming monsters in a way. I say that lightheartedly.
Transition stage.
Yeah. So it's that really sticky stage where they're just getting to know themselves and the people around them, and like who they want to be and how they want to present themselves to the world, right? So I think it was most memorable because there was a lot of students who they were kind of fed up with the number of substitutes coming into the classroom. I mean, they went through like 6 substitutes before I finally said, hey, I'm going to stay here and I'll finish the school year. And because the previous teacher had some health issues, her family member had health issues, so she had to leave. So they were really struggling to find someone to stay. And the first probably month, it was difficult because the kids really weren't familiar with me and how I was, but I let them know that I was going to stay, and I think that's what they needed. They needed someone to be there and to be there for the long haul. And I learned a lot, and not just about, how to better my craft as a teacher, and really about, building a curriculum, but I really learned how to connect with the students at that 6th grade level. Now
I'm going to toss a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you build those connections with students knowing that maybe you might be there for only one day? So how do you build those, I don't want to say quick connections?
Yeah. So, I'm a comedian, right? I think most teachers are comedians in some way, shape, or form. I love stand-up comedy. I love spoken word. So it's a bit of a kind of a performance, when we're in front of the students. So I usually build through storytelling. And because that's kind of my niche, having spent so long in South Korea, I usually come up with stories of my experiences there. And for the students that are like, wow, some students who haven't left this wonderful town of Bremerton, and having spent so long abroad, I have a lot of stories and experiences. So I think, I come up with some story or some weird thing or something related to culture. And that really is kind of like the point of connection with students. They're like, wow, you speak Korean. You've lived in foreign countries. What is it like? What are the students like? What do they have to do? How has life changed, or how is it differently for them than it is for us? So usually some type of a cultural point or aspect or my experience abroad. That's usually what helps me to connect with the students quickly.
How do you stay flexible and keep learning when you're constantly switching the environments?
Yeah, I have to say it's not easy. I think it's just remaining flexible and positive is like the key. But because I've done this for so long, I find that I thrive on the whim. Like if I have to overly plan, I get nervous, like stage fright. So for me, I plan on the whim, and I give myself grace, and I try to enjoy myself and have fun. I think that's most important. Yeah.
What's been the most challenging subject or situations you've had to walk into, and how did you handle it?
Well, it's funny because I went back to get my math credential, and I have to say, even at that time, I didn't feel confident in teaching math. And even in high school, I felt like it was a struggle just to understand the concepts. But I would have to say that, when I went back to school and I went back to teaching, student teaching at Olympic High School to get my math credential, we had a lot of students in ninth graders. I taught algebra and geometry. And I would have to say that, there's a lot of behavioral issues that we're having. Just kids, it's hard. Like they're learning new stuff, and they really want to, even in ninth grade, they're still learning how the whole high school scene is like, right? So, they want to fidget, or they want to talk with their friends, or they're getting bored, whatever it is. I would have to say that was probably the most difficult, because I had to, I had a mentor teacher that was super bright and was meant for math from day one. I'm more of a kind of, I guess, a left brain person, right? Like I feel like I'm more artistic. I was in the languages, I'm a storyteller. I've traveled a lot. So going into like more right brain and like math and like methodological, what's the word I'm trying to think of here? Mythology. There we go. Mythology of teaching math was probably the most difficult. So I had to do a lot of extra studying, a lot of extra work, a lot of extra designing, and then also take all of that new stuff that I've learned and wrap it in a way that was conducive to teaching to that level, which is ninth grade at the time.
Do you have a go-to activity or strategy when you may sense like the class might be getting a little bit restless?
I do. Yeah. And I feel like you can use this in really any situation. It's something I learned on the fly when I was teaching ESL or ELL in South Korea. When I first arrived there, I was like 24, just within a few years of graduation, and I really had no clue how to teach at all. And I was thinking like, well, I've been a translator, I've translated before, I've been an interpreter, but I've never taught in front of kids. And I was like, the day that I arrived, and I'm just going to kind of do a bit of a segue, but the day I arrived, they were like, here's your books. It was midnight. Here's your books. Here's your apartment. There's nothing in there except for like a bed and a pillow and like one chair in my apartment. And they're like, we'll see you on Monday. And here it is Friday night at midnight. And I had no clue. So, of course, the whole weekend, I'm like, it is pretty much like, put me to the wolves. What am I going to do? I'm supposed to come here on Monday and teach English, and I have no clue what level my students are at, or even how to teach the English language. But in the beginning of my journey of teaching, I came up with this really interesting kind of a scenario, and it's really only about 20 minutes long, but you can use it really for any grade level and really whatever subject you want. It's something that is task-based. You can do it individually, or you can do it as a group, and it creates an interesting kind of parallel to a what-if scenario, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, and I'll just kind of go through it really, really quickly. Yeah. On the board, I would have a boat that is that I, as a storyline, I tell the students, you wake up. You go to bed last night, and this morning you wake up and you're in a boat, and I draw a boat on the whiteboard, and the boat's knocking you back and forth, and you're completely alone with your PJs on, like drifting in the middle of the ocean, right? So then the kids have this idea in their mind, like, wow, what's happening? Is this, what's going to happen? It kind of hooks them into this storytelling scenario, like what's going to happen? Like they know that they're going to do a challenge, they know that it's going to be interesting, but they don't know what to expect. So then of course, within a few minutes, they realize that there's an island farther away, and we're drifting towards the island, but then there's also a lantern in my boat. And then, of course, you pick up the lantern, and you decide, of course, I'm going to rub the lantern to see what happens. The genie comes out and says, I'm going to grant you. And I draw this on the board as I'm telling the story. And the genie says, I'm going to grant you 3 wishes. You are going to have to stay on this island for 30 days to survive, and you have 3 wishes to help you stay alive for those 30 days. Now, but there's a problem in this scenario. You cannot wish for more wishes. You cannot wish to return home because you have to stay here for 30 days. And you cannot wish for, I think it was like one other aspect, but I forgot off the top of my head. But those are the 2 main things. Anyway, so in this scenario, again, you can use it for a number of different students or scenarios, right? But the kids are excited. they're like, and it could be like a complete segue from what we are doing in the classroom, but it gets them enticed, excited, engaged, loops everybody in. So there's not like, and I've done this like hundreds of times in different situations, whether I'm teaching like a short-term elementary level, or I've done this in high school, where this has nothing to do with the subject that we're learning about for the day, but we go through this scenario and it's absolutely fantastic. And so these kids that come up, and we can have like the standard survival plan, like what you would need to survive, and then you have the let's think outside the box, like I'm going to have a luggage box, but inside there is a black hole that allows me to pull out anything that I need at any given moment to survive for those 30 days. So it allows the kids to think more practically, but also to think more like using their imagination and seeing where it can take them. So this is my go-to that I've used for like 20 years. And it has never failed me.
I'm sure there's been a lot of students have shared a lot of interesting things.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. It's always been one of those go-to things that I know 100%. I'm 100%. No, I know that it's going to work to get those kids' attention, and we're going to have a great time. And that's also a great kind of a transition from like one activity to another. And you can make it like 30-minute long exercise. You can make it a 5-minute exercise. There's different ways that you can do it. But even in your position as a counselor, I'm sure, if you had an opportunity, like even with the other teachers, to do this this exciting kind of scenario, you'd probably pull them in and make it, fun and a learning field experience. So
a potential idea I might use in the future.
Yes.
Thank you.
For sure.
So what do you see next? You've been a sub for 10 plus years. What do you see next in your educational career?
Yeah. Well, I did tell myself last year, I said, well, I think I'm done subbing. But then, of course, I had a couple of long-term positions fall into my lap. And I did one stint as a PE teacher for 4 months, actually. Yeah, it was 4 months. And then I transitioned to another school district and taught French for 3. And now, I'm ready. I finally got the certification. We had a little bit of a blip happening with the certification issue with OSPI. But now that that's fixed, I'm ready to... Yeah, I'm ready to be a full-time, teacher. I love going and teaching different things, but it's time. I crave being able to to have the same students every day. That's one thing that I really enjoyed, I think, in my journey of teaching, is that the longer I spend with students, the easier it is for me to hone my craft. Because when you're in such short assignments, it's really hard to be able to say, hey, look at your day and this is what we did. This is how I could do things differently. This is how I can, be better. When you have that same audience of students, you get to dig deeper into how you can do better as a teacher and as a person.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, no, best of luck to us. Hopefully we can get that full time soon.
That's my hope. Yeah, I'm hard at work this summer. I'm balancing kids, having a little bit of fun because you have to have fun in the summer, but also hard at work and applying as well. So, yeah.
So for the last part of this interview, let's have some fun. I'm going to call it the word association. I'm going to give you one or two words or maybe a phrase, and some of the first thing that comes to mind. Everybody knows this. Yes. I always say this almost every episode. I really have a dislike for pickles. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of pickles?
Christmas.
Christmas.
Because we put the pickle on the tree, and the night before Christmas Day, and the first kiddo to find the pickle is the one that gets to open the first present.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Oreo cookies.
Ice cream.
WWE.
Anthony.
Who's that? Who's that guy? Who's that guy?
No, really. Yeah. When I heard about Hulk Hogan, I was like, Anthony is going to be so affected because
he died.
He died. You were like, it was your thing, I remember that. Yeah.
Pizza.
Pepperoni.
Okay. Yeah. Rap music.
Oh, my teenagers. Oh.
No? Okay.
Actually, no. I'd rather say old school, because I do like old school rap. But nowadays, teenagers listening to rap, sorry, it's not my thing.
No worries, no judgment. Yeah. Country music.
Kick the Dust Up.
Okay.
One of my favorite songs, yeah.
All right. About bad hygiene.
Oh. Wow. It's interesting. Middle school, That would be the word.
Okay.
I mean, you know very well having spent time in
I've had a few encounters here and
school.
there. I've had a few encounters with a few people, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How about junk food?
Popcorn. Yeah. Yeah, not too much junk food, but when I do, you go to the movie theaters, it's like you gotta have popcorn. Yeah.
Coffee.
Oh, caramel latte. Yeah.
Sports cars.
Oh. Lamborghini.
Ah. I like
What would
that
you
choice.
say,
Yeah.
though? What would you say?
Maybe a Lamborghini would be my number 2. Maybe a Corvette.
Oh.
My dream car.
Yeah. Although I have to say, when I was a senior in high school, I got to enjoy a 1984 Ford Mercury, which was like a German racing car. I had it for 2 weeks before I got into an accident, unfortunately. But that to me was the most awesome car ever. Yeah.
How about Happy Gilmore?
Oh my goodness. I'm thinking of golf, but that's kind of funny. I love, what's the actor's name again? I forgot.
Adam Sandler?
Adam Sandler. Oh my gosh.
They just came out with the second one. The second one just came out.
Adam Sandler,
It was
yeah.
great.
I haven't yet seen that, but I will. Yeah.
How about one more? How about MMA?
MMA? Oh. Like my Thai, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh gosh. Well, I get the vision of the guy who's well known in my Thai, but I don't know what his name is. Maybe do you know who it is?
No.
No? Okay.
But I'll throw a name for you just
Sweaty.
for
There we go.
sweaty. I'll throw a name for you just for fun. How
Okay.
about Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Belgium. He's
Okay.
Belgian. Yeah.
Any final things you want to tell our listeners?
Let's see. Substitute teaching it's not easy. I think, again, like I said before, I think it's a wonderful place to start if you're thinking about teaching. I think long term, there's a lot of things that need to change in our educational system, and one of them is the way that substitute teachers are treated. I think there's a lot of states like California, New York, and even in Canada, who they have what they call relief teachers or grade band teachers, where certified teachers like myself, we are given a grade band where we're certified to teach. We're able to stay as a substitute, but we're given all of the other benefits as a regular teacher, right? So we get to stay at either the same school or the same district. Kids get to know us. I think this is where we need to start, because there's still a shortage of substitute teachers. There will always be a shortage unless we change how we deal with substitute teachers. We need to change that system, and I think that's where we need to start. And hopefully it will be soon.
Hopefully soon, sometime soon.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chelsea, for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And that concludes this edition of Conversations with Miss Ray with Chelsea Pyper. Thank you, Chelsea, for sharing so much insight just with your journey as a substitute teacher, and really hope you end up getting that full-time permanent job, because you definitely deserve it. A lot of hard work, a lot of awesome experiences, a lot of fun stories and insights. Thank you so much, Chelsea. Proud to call you a friend. We've been a friend since high school, so I'm just definitely proud to call you a friend. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Stay tuned for more episodes.